dancers, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a different type of video and it is all about audition hacks. So obviously when you go to an audition, you really want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward and making sure that when the judges or company directors see you, they look at you and they go, wow, she's the one, there's something special about her. And I feel like a lot of these tips that I'm about to give you really can make you and put you into that light of where you want to be shining when you're in front of directors. I'll be talking to you about what to wear, what shoes you should be wearing, where you should stand at the bar, how you should wear your hair, makeup, the CV you should have, your attitude in the audition. I'm going to cover literally as many topics as I can, all audition related. So make sure if you want to see more, you subscribe, like and comment, and I think let's get straight into it. Now the big question is what should you wear in an audition? Now from my experiences auditioning, I would definitely say you should go for something more plain but an amazing cut leotard and also amazing colors. So obviously you know that if you're more pale, you'd probably want to lean towards more bold colors. If you're quite tan, you probably can get away with wearing more lighter colors, because when you've got fair skin like mine especially, wearing something like white or light pink can make you feel and look quite washed out. So just be very selective with your colors depending on your skin tone. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the cut. So there's a few things to look out for here. I definitely think high cut leotards are 100% the way to go. You've got to make sure always that your leg line looks absolutely as long as possible. You don't want your legs to look short. The next thing too is making sure that the leotard you have has some sort of paneling detail up the front, because that can make your whole body look slimmer. So if you have panels going all the way up here, and I've got one of my Collections by Claudia leotards, I've actually got a lot here, so I'll talk through a few different things, but the paneling that I've put on my leotards here at the front, what it does is it almost cuts your body in half in a way. So generally you find that when you're wearing a leotard like this, the eye gets drawn to this center panel here, which would in the long run make you look slimmer. So paneling is a really great thing for audition leotards especially. And as I said here, I've got a variety of different colors. Obviously if you're more tanned, you can really get away with these colors here. And if you're more pale, you probably want to lean towards more of the bolder colors here. I'm missing one color, I think I'm missing forest. But you can see here that basically my leotards, these are specifically created especially for auditions and workshops, because once again, they're beautiful colors, the cuts, they're super high cut, the paneling works really well. There we go, there's the forest color. So this one's great for auditions too, because it's got that real bold color and it's quite unique. And that's really my aim, to release colors and cuts that you can feel comfortable wearing in scenarios like workshops and auditions. Basically, if you want to purchase some of my leotards, just head to collectionsbyclaudia.com and they'll all be on my website. And also we're about to release a whole new range very shortly, so stay tuned because they're amazing colors and cuts too. Another thing that you should look out for with leotards as well is making sure that it opens up your neckline. In an ideal scenario, you'd want this to be sitting further out so it opens up your whole chest line. So when trying on a leotard or looking online, really watch and make sure that the leotards, they do sit further out rather than cutting in. So that's really important as well. Another thing to remember too, if you know that you're quite broad, don't go for cap sleeve or long sleeve leotards, because it really accentuates the broadness. Like you almost feel like it's going to hide it, but it actually never does. So you want to make sure always you go for more thin strap leotards when you're broad, and if you know you're quite narrow at the front, you'd want to be going for the opposite. So you'd probably want to then be wearing cap sleeve or long sleeve, or the boat style leotards, the boat neck I think they call them. So you got to be very selective depending on what your body looks like. You've got to be very selective with what type of leotard you would be wearing. Now the next topic is what shoes should you wear in an audition. Now in my personal opinion, I feel like turning up with leather shoes with ribbons on, especially if you're 17 and under is a very professional thing to do. So in an audition, if I was a company director and a whole bunch of girls walked in the room and some had canvas with just elastic across and some had leather ribbons, I'd sort of look at the leather ribbon girls and think, look, they have been prepared correctly. And I think it just gives that real professional look, especially in an audition. That's something you really want to get across to whoever's choosing you. You want to make sure that they look at you and think, wow, they obviously know how to present themselves. So I definitely think that you can't go wrong with classic leather shoes, maybe split sole if you don't want to wear full sole, and ribbons. That's really important. And also making sure that your tights and ballet flats, they actually blend in to be the same color. So I find a lot of dancers, they wear ballet shoes that are completely different color from their tights. So you want to make sure to make it look like you've got the longest legs possible. Definitely try and match up those two elements and you're giving yourself the best chance there as well. And now for my older girls, if you have to wear point shoes in your audition, I would highly recommend calamining your shoes or putting rosin across the whole point shoe to make your leg line look longer. I'd also recommend bashing underneath of the shoes, because there's nothing worse than in an audition being the loudest one landing. So make sure you really bash the underneath of the shoe. And I think one of my videos, the point shoe hack video, I talk about how to do that correctly. So I'll leave that in the description box below. So that's also really important. Now, what makeup should you wear? So with makeup, you've got to be careful because you just want it to enhance your features. You don't want it to be too heavy, especially because you're not on stage, you're only in the classroom. So I've actually released a makeup tutorial, but in that makeup tutorial, I apply eyeshadow, which I feel would be too heavy for an audition. So one thing you should remember, that for an audition, I think something with a good base, so you look nice and clear skinned, but then I think also just mascara, a little bit of blush, very natural looking lipstick, so nothing that's too light or too dark, something that's like a very soft light pink, enhancing your eyebrows a little bit more, and I think just a very glowy look. I think that's really important too. Obviously not a sweaty glowy look, but just glowy is fine for an audition scenario anyway, because you've got to remember they will be looking quite a lot at your face, because sometimes when it comes to ballet, it's so aesthetic. So making sure that you've just got quite a good base on, I think, is really important. Then from there, very light coverage and natural makeup is really important for an audition. Now, how should you wear your hair? I definitely think this can make and break the look. I would highly not recommend wearing your hair in a low bun. I always feel like on most people, I think there's probably been about 2 girls that I've seen step into my private lesson studio and I go, wow, you really suit low buns, wear that normally. But other than that, usually I prefer higher buns or a French roll, because I really feel like it lengthens your whole neckline, so that's really important. So I actually released a hair tutorial and I think it had 3 hairstyles on there, and I would say the bun and French roll are the best way to go, because you can't beat just classic hairstyles. You don't want anything too complicated, because sometimes company directors, they can look at that and it can actually just turn them off because there's too much happening. You're better off just going in there, being nice and clean, nice and simple, elegant looking. That's the right image you sort of want to get across. So I definitely recommend, I think the French roll, actually I'm leaning towards that. If you're going for a company or school, definitely go and check out that tutorial, because I go through with you how you can master that French roll. I think another good thing to remember too is if you have fair hair. So my fair hair ballerinas, really listen to this. Basically, sometimes it can look like when you really slick your hair back like this, like I've been told on my channel before that I look bald, and I'm cool with that, I know, because I'm fair haired. But like that, literally. And that can sometimes not look the greatest from the front. You got to remember that your hair should give you like a nice soft line. So sometimes like slicking your hair back won't always be the best answer for that. Actually having more of like a softer front part to your hairline can give a much better image, especially for the girls who have fair hair. So that's why I think, you know, the French roll in that tutorial, that can work really well, because it actually gives you a bit of height on top of your head. And just remembering to not go full on slick back. It's better that it looks a lot softer, I feel. So just keep that in mind for my fair hair girls. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is where should you stand in an audition. So I'm going to talk about when you're in the center first. One thing I think is really important is you can't be too pushy, but you also can't be too hesitant to go to the front. So you got to have that real in-between balance. I would recommend that when they say center work, and if they're not going to put you in number order, that I would go towards the first front line, but go towards the left. So generally, and this is something I learned when I was doing a lot of adjudicating back a few years ago, your eye, that it actually, believe this or not, it actually goes towards naturally your left. So when you watch dancers, generally you look to your left. So I think if you're going to go in the front line, don't go straight bang on into the center, because usually they look past those people. You're better off going to the side, to the left, as I said. Or the next best option, I would say, would be second line and in the center. So as I said, being dead set in the center, in the front line, it's almost like it's too much. They're like two in your face. So being the second line back, but in the center, it gives you that distance, but they can still see you, obviously. But I honestly think if you had a first preference, I would go for first line to the left for sure. So keep that in mind. On the bar, I would say know what your good side is. So let's just say my good side is my right side. I would try and stand on a center bar, and I would try and stand with my left hand on the bar so they can see my right leg up. That's obviously if my right leg is my good leg. If it's my left, you'd probably try and have your right hand on the bar so they can see your left leg first. So that's another thing to remember, that when you do come on the bar or in the center, pick those perfect positions, because that can really make or break an audition as well. Now we're going to talk about attitude in the audition. This is so important, because it's very important that you don't come across, as I said, too pushy or not yourself either. You know, these company directors, they're not silly. They know when they see someone who's genuine and someone who's not. So I think it's really important that you give off a vibe that you're very calm, and another vibe that you're very positive and happy and willing to do anything. So if a teacher says, like the instructor says, okay, can I have a group of 5 girls? Maybe you be the person that takes the initiative to be one of those 5 girls, because that shows that you're prepared to just go in straight away, which is a really good trait to have in a company. So I would say showing that you're calm, positive, happy, you have initiative, and that you're willing to go in straight away. I think that's the most important thing to bring to an audition. And the next thing I'd probably say too is, if you do have an option of what group to go in, I would say go into the second group, because at least you can watch it through once, hear the music, watch what other people are doing, and then go into the second group, because it's close enough to the beginning for them to think, okay, yeah, these ones, obviously they do have the initiative to go first, but then it's also not too close at the end where they sort of think, oh, they've had so much time to follow along and copy. And it doesn't look the best too if you go at the end and you make a mistake, let's just say, because it looks like that you've had all that time and then you go in there and you don't do it right, which is not great. So I think showing that is really important too. So attitude in the audition can be a make or break. Now dancers, I was going to talk about a CV or a resume and what you should bring to an audition. So we were thinking of doing a tutorial on this. I don't know if it would be popular enough. So can I actually get you all to comment below if you want my videographer and myself to put together how you would create a CV for an audition? Because I have done plenty for dancers, so I'm willing to share that with you all, but I just want to see that the requests are there. So if you comment, then I'll show you how to do that. And last but not least, you've got to remember that when you do go into an audition or a workshop, you've got to remember that the people that are judging you, they are on your side. Like, they want you to do well. Don't feel like when you go out there that they want you to mess up that turn or make a mistake in the grand allegro. They want you to do your best, and they really want to see you shine. So just always keep that in mind. Never be afraid of who's watching you or who you have to speak to, because at the end of the day, we're all human, we're all people, we're all trying to do our best. So just remember that they are really on your side, and if you've prepared yourself well, they will see that. Hard work never goes unnoticed. So always keep that in mind. So if you have an audition coming up, I'm giving you my best of luck to you. I'm sure you're going to absolutely nail it, and at least these tips will give you a good guide as to what you should be doing and what you should prepare for before an audition, because I know it can be a real career-changing move. So just remember all those little things, and if you have any questions, put it in the comments below and I'm happy to answer them for you all. Lots of love, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!